Good morning and welcome back to the AI Executive Mornings. This is your go to live broadcast for real time AI insights, industry trends, and executive level analysis. And as we always promise, without the hype and noise, I'm your host, Albert Ramos, and I'm here with my co hosts, Nick James and Jason Hess. All right, let's jump in because we have a lot to talk about. We've been wanting to get on back on this over the weekend. There's just so much going on, including NVIDIA. Number one, we're going to go over the new AI tools. Speaking of NVIDIA, new AI tools revolutionizing workflow. So I know there's a lot of operators out there. You're going to love this one. Second, we're going to go through AI as the cornerstone of modern enterprise. There's a ton of chat about there. And then finally, if we have the time, we're going to navigate the crime side of things. Navigating AI driven crime, we all know it's a growing threat and it's getting worse. And we want to educate the public on how to prevent, mitigate, and protect yourself. So let's start out with the AI tools. There's a lot going on. Jason, walk us through.
Yeah, so MIT in partnership with NVIDIA, they came out with a new image generating tool, which brings the best of both different capabilities. So you've got one capability that automatically generates the image, and the other one that fine tunes and really gets that make it look realistic. And so they were able to create and work on building a model that brings both of those together and actually is much more efficient and can run on anyone's laptop. So this is going to really change how people are generating images and being able to prototype ideas and be able to kind of give that visualization of what does this product look like very quickly, and you can put it on different types of people. So if you're in product development, I think this is going to be a great opportunity. You don't have a lot of compute resources and able to do this, and so I think this is going to be a great way for us to really start improving the image capability. Well, it's yet to be seen on how well it'll do with creating words, because that's probably the worst thing that images generation does. Is it doesn't generate words correctly. It would add extra letters. It'll spell it incorrectly, or sometimes it just adds in Russian characters for some unknown reason.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's funny about imagery. I know it's come a long way, right? You think about Dale, you think about Midjourney, which actually Midjourney is pretty good if you know how to use it. And it gets pretty technical there. So we are looking for something easier that is better, meaning when you look at the imagery, it doesn't have, 10 fingers on one hand and things like that. So we're coming a long way. I love this, Jace. Nick, I know you've been walking through some of these AI tools, including what NVIDIA's coming out. So why don't we go over to you? What are your thoughts?
Thanks, Albert. I love that you called it Dale. Like
Is that the name?
Dale.
Dale. It's the Latin. It's the Latin in me. Dale.
Yeah. I've heard it pronounced Dali, but I've never Dale. I love that. That's the Hispanic flavor. That's the Hispanic version.
The
The
spicy
spicy
Dale.
version. Maybe that comes out with Spanish characters instead of Russian. But anyway, no, look, NVIDIA's always been about edge computing. It's been about taking the power of what's inside the data center and distributing it out to the edge, people's homes, in small businesses, in hospitals, right at the edge. Why is that important? And real quickly, it started off with Digits. Actually, Digits was their very first announcement, and now they're coming out with larger. Digits was more compact, but now they're coming out with larger units that have their Blackwell chip. Um, and I think what's really key on that, and something that I'm a big fan of and support, is private AI. Okay, when we use artificial intelligence like ChatGPT or any one of the big providers like Grok or Anthropic, we are sending our data out there and we don't know what's happening. It's called the black box effect. Okay, meaning that when you send data in, you have no idea what's done with it, how it's stored, how it's being treated, how it's being handled, is it being resold, right? You have no understanding. And all we have to go off of is what they say on their website on how they're handling our data. Or perhaps they'll say, oh, if you're using the API, then we won't use your data to train our models. But once again, it's not auditable. So I love the fact that NVIDIA is promoting edge computing, because there are a lot of use cases where putting AI at the edge, number one, can be critical and life saving. Think about emergency support and response services, right? If we have AI at the edge, we ensure a higher level of reliability on delivering services faster, because there's something called latency that's introduced when a server is really far away in some data center and we're trying to get an output back really fast to respond very quickly. And unfortunately, that latency causes a delay. So, number one, I would say privacy is number one reason why edge computing is important. Number two, just that speed, and I think that there's a lot of we're going to get on the topic of tokens, but if it's your computer, what do you care what the tokens are, right? So
Right.
I'll send it back to you, Albert.
Well, it's funny, and there's a lot of great stuff, right? 9 times faster. Some of these models are going 9 times faster on image generation, and it's looking really good, right? And then there's these like infrastructure framework things that NVIDIA is coming out with. One of the things I was thinking about though is when you start to really build this into the infrastructure and it becomes just AI everything. I know this sounds silly, right? But I know there's people out there, including us, like the Wi-Fi goes down and like everything shuts down. Like you can't do a thing, right? And it's just like when you depend on AI of everything, AIOT, is that what people are saying nowadays? Um, but then you don't have the
I don't
source,
think
like
so.
the bloodline of Wi-Fi bandwidth, etc. Like you can't do anything. It kills me sometimes. Like I don't know what I can. I lose my mind when I can't use this thing anymore. I'm like, there's no Wi-Fi. Like my life's over. I don't know what to do. I'm just gonna bang my head against the wall. Have you guys, Jason? Have you thought about that? Like as we're integrating, right? These organizations are integrating things into their software, their infrastructure, their ERP, their everything. Maybe I'm thinking way too complex, right? It's not
No,
that
I don't
complex.
think I don't think that's the case. I think you're absolutely correct. As new technology is released, it opens up brain power for you to focus on other things. So, think back before the mobile phones came out and you had to memorize people's phone numbers. And it was only 7 digit. It wasn't even the entire 10 digit phone numbers that you had to
Right.
memorize. And you knew your home phone number, your grandparents, and you knew all these phone numbers that you could just dial at a whim. I can't even tell you what my wife's phone number is. I get it right maybe 1 out of 10 times. So,
That's
this is
crazy.
another thing that, as technology evolves, it's going to open you up for more productivity. So I am
Right.
much more productive because I don't have all of that forced memories in there, that I can be more creative and be able to do things. So this is another thing where AI is going to help us be more creative, because it's going to take away a lot of those things that we had to memorize in the past.
Now, here's the thing with that, though, right? Think about you're in a boardroom, right? You're with the executive C suite group, ELT group, and unfortunately, not all of them are on the AI track, right? On the AI adoption. So this is, by the way, this is an example or hypothetical. They ask you, "What are your financials?" Got it. Let me get it over here. No, no, no. What are your financials? Right? You almost expecting you to still memorize, still store. So it's interesting in the professional world, at least, and I know we're going to get into tokens and enterprise, but there is this battle that I think employees are working on, right? It's, do I want to let them know I'm using AI? Do I not? Am I going to walk into a room that people are open minded to? Hey, no need to memorize. Like, walk us through. Like, pull up your whatever what you've been working on, your transcribed notes, and let's walk through it. So it's interesting. There's this battle right now of expectations, and I think it's lending to some confusion and some tension, right? Have you all heard anything about that?
Yes, absolutely. I think that's really because AI is still new and is still very misunderstood, and people don't understand how we're doing it. And when we get into the next topic, we'll talk a little bit about why it's so misunderstood. But
Right.
people are still doing that. But what I would challenge executives is, this is another tool. If you want me to explain my financials, most likely you're going to let me use Excel and be able to display that, or use a PowerPoint to be able to put that information up. AI is just another tool to help you display and communicate more effectively. So as you frame it that way, it's just another tool that anyone should be able to use. It's not something that's negative. It's something that you should be embracing and figuring out how you can use that and how your staff can be more effective by utilizing it.
I would say that it comes down to trust. Um, it's taken a long time. If we take a walk down memory lane, it took a long time for executives in the early 90s to start to trust Excel. This all comes down to composition, because when you're talking about accounting, things are viewed at aggregate levels, right? Am I right, Albert? I'm not the CFO in the room.
No, no,
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
spot on.
yeah. So when things are viewed at aggregate, there's a lot of I would say concern on how that aggregate was composed. And so now that we have Excel, people put trust in people who design those Excel sheets and the formulas, right? And or the software, right? Now AI is feels very unstructured. So I think that there's going to be sort of a trust curve, I would say, as we move down the path, and AI has to continue to prove itself to be better than humans until humans start to trust AI. Unfortunately, we are overly critical of AI. Look at self-driving, right? Humans get in accidents all the time, but we don't say anything. And the
Well, and that's
first
we
chance,
spoke about that last week, Nick. Is there is that challenge, and there is that unrealistic expectation that a computer must be perfect, and
exactly,
if until it's perfect, you don't use it. So this is where we've got to kind of help people, like you don't have employees that are perfect, but you still trust them to do things.
yeah,
You've got tools that are not perfect. They are better. They are much more knowledgeable and more informed, but it's something that you've got to be able to think through and balance that out. And you can't wait for AI to be perfect,
Right.
because you'll be lapped by the competition.
amen.
Yeah, that's a good point. We're seeing that a lot, right? I know we've chatted about it, and no bad blood with our CIOs out there, but I keep hearing it. I keep hearing it. I'm talking to CHROs. I'm talking to CFOs, and there's like a nemesis. Like, we don't understand this fully. It's not fully vetted out. There's a risk of leakage. There's a risk of security. And I know I'm talking to the cybersecurity guys and the builders and all that, right? Like, don't kill me. Don't Samantha, don't knock me off this show, please. But I'm still hearing that. And maybe that's just like the easy way, right? We're talking tech, so just go after the CIO or CAIO or whatever, right? But I'm still getting the tension point. It's not full, Jason, to your point, it's not fully vetted out. We're not doing it. It's interesting. All right, let's switch gears because I know there's a lot to talk about there. We can go down the rabbit holes. I'm sure the audience wants to as well, but we got to switch gears because we want to fit in more. So, enterprise. Speaking of enterprise, AI is a cornerstone of modern enterprise. So, we were wondering, Jason and Nick, we were talking about, like, man, it's quiet out there. Like, what's going on? Everyone's waiting for someone to announce something so that they can announce something right after and say it's better and bigger and cheaper, right? So, NVIDIA, we knew something was going to come out. We talked about it last week. There was the robot, and now there's these different studios and imagery, things like that. But tokens keeps coming up, and I know the CEO, Jensen, has been talking a lot about tokens and that currency, or how valuable they are. So, Jason, do you want to chat about this piece on what is we've done this in a previous show. This might have been maybe a month ago, where we really hit on it pretty hard for quite some length. But I think people still need to understand what's going on in these large language models. What the heck are tokens? I was telling you guys in the pre-show, my buddy, ultra smart orthopedic surgeon. We were up late last night as I was just teaching him, right? Teaching him the ins and outs of what we would consider the basics, and then leading into like an infrastructure of GPTs and agentic workflows. But I went way too far. I got too excited. I'm like, hold on, let's hold, right? Because we started talking about tokens and then the predictive analytics, right? And it was just like, whoa, I don't understand this, So it just reminded me we still need to slow down for a lot of people, right? And so, Jason, you want to walk us through the basics and what are tokens and what's going on in the models?
Yeah, so tokens is the language that AI uses. So if you think of data is the raw materials, tokens is the language of how it communicates with it and is able to find information very quickly. And a token is traditionally four characters. So large words can have multiple tokens. So if you think of the word darkness, dark, I believe the token is 271, and ness is the token 655. So they bring those two together, and there's a lot of algebra and calculus that go into that. But that's how these models work, is they work by this theory of tokens. And so is that something that's necessary? This is where Jensen said every company is going to be an AI token factory in the future. And that really, it seems like it confused a lot of people. And really, all it is you're going to be able to utilize your data to be able to have tokens that are going to be able to answer your problems. And this is where it's definitely going. I don't think it should be something that's fearful, but I think what your point is absolutely correct. There are people that are learning AI that are so far ahead within 2 years of the rest of society. And how do we bring them all together? And part of it comes back to, like, you think about when the internet came out and when Google came out in the late 90s, it just, people couldn't wrap their head around, wait a minute, I don't have a card catalog anymore. How do I get all of these links so quickly? And we've got to be able to frame it so that people
So
can
good.
understand that the same type of way. It is, this is a new technology. There is a lot of things going on under the hood, but it's nothing you should be fearful of. Go ahead, ask it questions, see the responses. Does it help you? Yes or no?
Yeah, it's so good. It makes me think of it, and I know Nick, Jay, something. I know we've been chatting about it. I think there's still, yeah, there's an adoption there's an adoption gap, yet it's getting better, but there's still a gap on your expertise, right? And I think you're right. People that have been working on this for years are far ahead of the game, right? So when we talk about the basics of a Copilot or Grok or whatever, I'm like, come on, this is the easy stuff, right? We're building over here. We're building agents. We're building. Nick, we were talking about. We need to start talking about robotics. Like, it's here, y'all. It's here. For those out there, it's like when you hear agents are the buzzword. It's not a buzzword. It's here. Robotics is a buzzword. It's not a buzzword. It's here, right? You're speaking to mainstream. Like, we're letting you know we're already working on it, and we're helping your competitors to jump on. But we've talked a lot about just workshops, right? I know we're even getting ahead. We're going to start introducing the White Glove AI avatar, right, and demoing it out and doing workshops so people can play with it, ask questions. But it sounds like there's still the basics that's needed. We have an episode coming out with one of our episodes on the podcast with Paul Carney, right? And so he does a lot of workshops, and for specifically for CHROs. We just talked to Liam, so that episode just came out, and he's doing workshops, but for LinkedIn AI powered LinkedIn personal branding, right? So there still seems to be an area of void there where people still, they don't know where to go. I mean, one of the questions I got last night was, "Hey, what YouTube videos should I watch?" And I'm like, man, there's no one knows where to go. No one knows what to. I'm like, hey, go to the AI executive YouTube channel. How about that? Like, that's my go-to. So Nick, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I just going back to the topic on tokenization. The point of factories has always been to create efficiency, and the point of AI is to create more efficiency. But what can happen now is that your use of AI, especially when it's API driven, where you're making API calls to large model providers, things can get out of control and out of hand. Much like well, back in the day when companies were really surprised when they got their AWS bill, right? um, so there's a whole cost component to this, and I think it's very
That's a good point.
salient to the CFO types
Mm,
to be paying attention to what kind of charges are coming in, because these aren't very deterministic. They're more opportunistic. They're more transactional.
mm,
They're based on volume. They're really based on how much you're consuming as a company. I follow this guy, Reuven Cohen. He has his own excuse me, WhatsApp group. It's called Agentics. I've been with them for a while now. The guy actually came up with his own symbolic language that
wow.
got I, I believe it got banned by OpenAI, meaning like they put guardrails to the point where he couldn't use it. So he created a new language to communicate in order to achieve even higher token efficiency. I think he was saving something like 96% on token costs,
It's
right?
like
Like for
AI. It's like AI slang.
it's like, yeah, AI slang, yeah, AI bonics, whatever you want to call it. Um, it's really fascinating, the creative things that people are doing to achieve token efficiency. There's even whole companies out there like Requesty,
Hmm.
Requsty, I believe. I've been chatting with the co-founder. I believe they're down in Austin, but the whole purpose and existence of their company is to create token efficiency and cost management. So those are the kinds of tools that CFOs need to be paying attention to.
Right. Yeah. No, you're right. ROI too. Right. Because you're right. It's not in many cases not deterministic, right? Unless you're using like predictive analytics, which in a lot of ways it is already. But you're right. It's transactional, or it's you gotta look at the costs. You're absolutely right. And prior to even jumping in, look at the costs. Look at the ROI. I was on a like a speaking engagement called RevTech, sponsored by Signals and some others, and that was the key point. I was pitching people to pitch to their CFOs, and if you're not going in thinking about ROI and understanding the costs,
That's a huge
um,
one. Yeah.
yeah, you're behind the game. You're going to get a no every time, because why would I invest in anything that is going to cost me quite a bit? We're going to have to we're going to have to spend on additional payroll for education and training, and you don't even tell me what the ROI is. Like, I don't care if AI is a hype. It's AI is awesome, great. What is it going to do for us? What is it going to? How is the EBITDA line item going to look
I,
better?
and I want to say just a few words about that because it's so relevant, especially here at White Glove AI. That's what we lead with is ROI.
Right.
Our very first consulting offering is called the AI Launchpad Workshop. We focus heavily on ROI. If you're spending $10 and you're only getting $5 worth of value, that makes
Right.
no sense.
Right.
Okay. In fact, I'm here in the Petroplex, Midland, Odessa, right now. I'm from a hotel room. That's where I'm calling in from, closing out a Launchpad workshop. And it's amazing that we were able to save this company as much as we did. And frankly, we were using features of tools that they were already paying for, and they didn't even know they had. So ROI is definitely should be the very, very first part of your AI sort of the start of your journey in the conversation.
Wait, I'm a little confused here because when looking at your background, I'm in a hotel too. Yours looks a lot nicer, and then you got Jason's wine section here, and I'm like, what? I didn't get the memo, man. I didn't get the memo. All right,
Yeah.
so switching gears from tokens. Okay, this is a hot topic, right? Back to some hesitation. We've talked a lot about agents, right, and just AI driven or AI first everything. But we're also seeing as AI adoption rises and the technology gets better, we're seeing quite an interesting growth in AI driven crime. So, Jason, Nick, I know you spent a lot of time here because we're big at White Glove. We're big on the loss prevention side, leakage, preventative measures, risk mitigation, and we're hearing a lot about this, right? People, enterprises needing help now that they've adopted. It's like, oh shoot, we didn't use the AI AMF, right?
Yeah.
We didn't think about the governance and the security measures. So, Nick, let's shoot it over back to you. Sorry to go back to you, Jason. We'll get to you here in a sec. But what are your thoughts on just this growing threat of almost agent crime?
Deepfakes are so prevalent, and frankly,
Yes.
deepfakes are not new. They've just become more easy to create because there's companies like 11 Labs comes to mind. So if you go to 11labs.com, you can create a clone of just anybody's voice. And the problem there is the consenting mechanisms don't
Right.
exist right now. Um, so when it comes to creating avatars, like you were talking about earlier, Albert, our provider that we use, we're required before we submit a custom avatar, which what that means is that we can create a digital replica of any living consenting human being. We are the person who that digital replica represents, before they record their video to be processed for the digital replica creation, they must consent. So as a part of the video recording, the initial part of that recording is them reading out a line saying that they consent to have a digital replica created of them. That doesn't really exist in voice. So I think what's kind of going viral right now is Vice President J.D. Vance talking smack
I heard
about
about that
Elon
this
Musk,
morning. Yeah.
how he's from South Africa, and he's just he's a fake American leader, or something to that effect. I'm not gonna give it any more of my attention, but I'm simply bringing up as a point of how easy it is to create a vocal impersonation of somebody. And then when you get into using voice AI systems like White Glove AI has, we can do upwards of 10,000 calls simultaneously. We can handle them inbound or we can send them outbound. I can imagine making 10,000 calls at the same time, right? And I have a exact clone of Albert's voice, which is a very unique voice. So it's hard to it's hard to impersonate, but it's also hard not to say that, hey, that's Albert's voice, right? Because it's unique.
They'll never
So
get
I
me.
can make a
They'll never get me.
they'll
They'll
ne-
never.
I can make a replica of your voice in 11 Labs, load it into my account, go to our voice AI system, load your voice in, make 10,000 calls. Imagine that.
Well,
That's
I'm
the
just thinking
problem.
on the crime side, right? So, okay, it has vision, it has memory, it has voice, it can replicate people's voice, it can now avatar, right? And now we're building our own, right? We have Gloria, we have a Nick, we have a Jason now, we have an Albert, Sam. We're gonna get a Sam avatar if she consents. Uh, so, I mean, these agents, this technology can replicate someone that you love and trust, but it's not really them. And so
Yeah,
we've talked about it on different shows on having code words, right? But when you
yeah,
see, there's just something about when you see it, you hear it, there's an emotional gravitation, especially with someone that you trust.
yeah.
Or you're a new team member and your CEO comes on the line, sets up a Google Meet or Zoom with you, and you really think it's them. I mean, that's where we're going.
We are.
So how do we, Jason, thoughts on this? Like, how do we
No, I
protect
think
ourselves?
this is one of the double-edged sword of technology and innovation. Is it is going to unlock so much potential for good, but the fraudsters, the criminals, they're going to find their ways in order to try to dupe people. I mean, we got a email from the state of Texas saying, "Hey, you've got this bill to pay," or it was actually a proper letter, and it looked professional. We called the comptroller's office, and it was a fake. So this is something that's going to continue to happen, and you've got to be on guard. And it's going to get much more sophisticated. It's going to get much more looking professional and well done because it's so easy now with AI to be able to build that. And it's going to cause a lot more cyber attacks and fraud examples where you're going to have to be able to start taking advantage of, or the people are going to start trying to take advantage of that with you. So you've
Right.
really got to be able to start being more mindful of that as you start seeing some of these coming in.
Yeah, and the one place I would say that we need to be focusing on deeply, number one is identity, and number two is the authentication of that identity. Authentication needs to change. Right now, when I walk up to you, Albert, I'm authenticating you. Like if we were in person, I'm
Sure.
authenticating you to say, hey, is this the real Albert? Does this look like the previous forms of Albert I've seen? Does it sound like Albert? We do authentication all the time. It feels like such a big, inaccessible technical term, but it's a very simple concept. You're just
Mm.
making sure who you're talking to is actually the person you intend to talk to or who they purport to be. So I think identity is number one and authentication is number two. I know we're running out of time, but
We're
I'll try.
running out of time, but Nick, you just now I'm gonna go get a workout in, and now you got my juices flowing, right? Because I love movies. So I think of Minority Report. Tom Cruise is walking by a shop. They scan his eyeballs, and then they can do a
Yep.
hyper personalized marketing campaign for him right on the spot. Right. I think of Inception. Right. It's like you want to know reality. Let's spin our little top. Right. Like, are you here with me? You know what's funny about that is you authenticate me, by being in front of me. But then there's going to be a point in this immersive reality where how do you authenticate yourself? Like
Yeah.
it's really crazy to think about. And I'm not going to go down that road today. We're out of time. So,
So
but I
one of
do
the
want to.
things,
Oh, go
so we
ahead,
did
Jason.
get a comment in. Michelle Ryder reached out and said she got an email from a CEO yesterday and even used his nickname.
I'm
So
telling you.
it is getting more sophisticated. You can be able to search and find a lot more to make custom emails. It's not like the early 2010s where you got this very fragmented English phishing message. Now
Right.
they're very tailored, and it looks exactly. You can use their company's letterhead, and you've got to be very mindful before you click on any links or accept any of those messages.
I don't know about you guys, but well, I love the technology. I hate this part of it, right? But it's important. But I just hate having to like. It's so anxiety inducing, right? It's like you're living on
Mhm.
the edge, right? So I had two
Mhm.
examples. Same like Michelle. By the way, we love Michelle. Hi, Michelle. Thanks for jumping on. It was actually real. It was my finance. It was a finance team that I was working with, and they were asking us to go and pay a certain amount, and right away because of these conversations like, oh heck no, that's not real, call me, I don't trust this. I felt terrible. It was all real. They were like, why is this guy paranoid? But it's like it's in the environment we're in because we hear all these horrible horrendous stories, nicknames. And yeah, so anyways, all right, we're a little over time. We can go down. We probably need to chat about this and pick it up in the morning, but very excited about Paul Carney. Jason, I know you were behind the scenes with me. For all you CHROs out there and those that really value the team member engagement side, he goes through just some great best practices on how you can use AI to improve the employee experience, both in the private and public sector. So really excited about that. But gentlemen, thank you so much for being on today. Samantha, behind the scenes, keeping us organized and in check. We really appreciate you. And that's it for today's AI Executive Morning Buzz. Big thanks to Nick James, Jason Hess, Samantha, and also shout outs to Michelle Ryder out there for joining us and for providing your insights and jumping in the chat. As we always say, stay curious, stay innovative, and we'll see you every morning, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at 7:30 a.m. Central. It's 5 in the morning here in California. So I'm going to go get a workout in, Nick. Jason, thank you so much. And everyone, have a great day.
Have a great day.